What is going on?
Hey guys.
Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday again already. I feel like it was just Wednesday.
I know. Can you like? I feel like these weeks are literally just flying by, and then we're back again.
It's just kind of become a blur at this point. So, before we get too far into today's show, we want to give a huge congratulations and shout out to Chris and Sergio for their 1 year anniversary of Show Me the Money Club. These guys are doing fantastic work, and they're just a pillar of the driving community, and they're really doing God's work for drivers. So, guys, congratulations to you.
It was a lot of fun yesterday. Just being with a whole bunch of contributors to RSG, and Gabe serenaded us with a fantastic song. So if you guys haven't already checked out yesterday's anniversary show, go check it out because I had tons of fun doing it. So congratulations, Chris and Sergio, for your 1 year anniversary. It
It
was
was
it was fun.
it was such a good time. And I mean, come on. Like what kind of company will let you sit there and have a drink on stream? I mean, come on. Like I was sitting there knocking them back, just enjoying myself, enjoying the company. RSG is a great group of people to be with. So, on that note, welcome. Today is Wednesday. It is that time again for Money Hungry, and boy, do we have a jam-packed show today. We've got funnies, we've got all kinds of news, and we've got some things that are probably gonna piss you off. So, with that said, Kim, why don't we jump right into Pennies to Prosperity?
So our first story tonight is unpopular opinion, best food delivery services in 2023. Now, when I read this article, and it is from one person's perspective and point of view, I read his listing and I'm like, really? No. And then I was reading his rationality behind how he ranked each one of these restaurants, and I'm like, dude, no, like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, this is totally a personal opinion. It's not based off of facts. So this is how he ranked the apps, and you guys are going to have to let me know if you agree with this or not agree with this, because I did not agree whatsoever. So he ranked it as Grubhub, and then he says Doordash is the second. But he says that Doordash was second because it doesn't reach as far as Grubhub. That was his rationale behind that.
So, okay,
Yeah.
continue. I'm gonna go on a tirade here in a minute, but continue for now.
So, but I'm going to put into that. So just to give you, because I've done lots of research for other videos I've done previously. So he was totally off base on this. Yeah. Grubhub reaches 5,000 cities. DoorDash reaches 7,000 cities. So if you're basing it off of that, no. And then he says Seamless, which I've never heard before. I'm like, what the heck is Seamless? So I did research, and it is a parent company of Grubhub. Has anybody heard of Seamless? Am I the only one on that one?
I hadn't heard of it. I've never once heard somebody say, "Oh, I'm a Seamless driver."
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. And then they put Uber Eats after that. And he says that, I know, this is the best thing. He says Uber Eats only reaches 500 cities. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, of course, my nerdy side of me researches it, and Uber Eats reaches 6,000 cities. So I'm like,
yeah,
dude, you need to do your fact checking a little bit better than this. And then he went on to say, then he put, Instacart in there. I'm like, but that's not food delivery. And I thought that was weird. And then Caviar, which is now part of DoorDash. But you still can order from Caviar. Mm-hmm. And then he put in And I'm like, this even still exists? I didn't think they even still exist. I don't. The whole entire thing was just.
So I'm not sure if your mic just cut out for anybody else, but I definitely just lost you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good
Okay.
now. So, hello to everybody just joining us, by the way. So, if you guys would, in your personal opinion, I want you to rank in the chat, the excuse me, in order the top 3 delivery companies, food delivery companies, in order of what you think is the best to the worst, out of Grubhub, DoorDash, and Uber Eats, if you guys would. So there was something else that kind of, and it's worth noting. This is just a lighthearted story to get us into this before we kind of start getting into the heavier stuff. But there's a slide that I wanted to go to here, Kim, and it was the. Let me see if I can figure out which slide this was. Okay, go to slide number 6. It's got an orange background.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. So, and this is the Uber or the Instacart one. And so this was written from the perspective of a, for the customers, right? The best food delivery app for customers. However, if you look at that red underline on the image on the right, it can be difficult to get time slots. So they just completely shifted gears on this. So initially, when I was reading this, doing the research for our show tonight, I thought that this was written 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, right?
No.
No, it was updated like a week ago. So very, very kind of out there. Something very easy and simple to kind of ease us into today. But we've got some opinions here. Let's see here. Thomas, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. Okay. DoorDash, I don't care. I don't care. Let's see. Anthony's got Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub. Okay. So I agree
What's
with
yours?
Anthony on that one. Yeah, I'm with Anthony. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub.
Mine's DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. I always say this. I always feel like it really depends on your area, and it really is so market specific. And I love that everybody has a completely different order based off of their own area.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, I find it interesting that they're pushing apps that aren't even really a thing anymore, but just something small to kind of get us going today. So, if all right, I guess ultimately it doesn't matter, but I just think it's interesting that. So this was from Tom's Guide, and this website is fairly well established, and for them to get their information so wildly wrong is kind of sloppy, in my opinion. What do you think, Kim?
I don't personally like articles that they don't fact check. I
Yeah,
felt like there was a lot of things that I'm like, I mean, maybe I just know it because I'm a driver and I've already have done research on this. But I'm like, but it doesn't take much to do research on these companies. It literally took me a second to go into Google and say, how many cities is Uber Eats in? And it just popped right up. So he didn't even do research. And I personally don't like articles that don't do the research.
for sure. So there's something that I don't like, Kim, and it's when articles decide that they, as non-drivers, are going to tell customers how much they should tip drivers.
Oh, good segue. That was a good one.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, sorry, we had a bunch of slides here, so we're gonna have to find that.
Okay.
So, according to this article, food and rideshare drivers are putting out the message that we are dissatisfied with tips. And so far, so good. I think that most of us can probably agree with that synopsis. Kim?
Yeah. I agree. I agree. They're kind of what they were saying, and I think we said this last week, that since pandemic times we're coming out of them, things have completely changed. I think one of the drivers that they interviewed said that everybody should tip 15 to 20%. I That would be fantastic if
Mm.
every customer would tip 15 to 20%. Do I think it's realistic? No, I just don't think that you can really tell anybody. Because how would you feel if you demanded somebody you have to tip or you have to put this so much amount down? I think customers are going to tip whatever they want to tip, regardless of what us as drivers would like them to tip.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, the 15 to 20% sounds fantastic up until they order a $10 bowl of Chipotle and you get a $2 tip and they expect you to drive 8 miles to get it delivered, right? In my market, that'd be $4.75, right? And that shit isn't going to fly. So that 20% kind of falls a little short sometimes. So I, it just kind of bugs me when people who are not in this industry chime in on this, right? If you're not, they're writing the articles. They're not the people writing the article is they're not the people who are being asked to tip, right? And they're not the people receiving those tips. So I don't know. It just kind of bugs me. I wish that customers would go directly to the source rather than articles cherry picking drivers to, to pass out information that may not actually be all that good.
Yeah, I just don't think like in this article they interviewed 3 drivers altogether, and one of them happened to even be a rideshare. So I guess they try to do a variety of drivers out there, but I don't think 3 drivers can speak for the millions of
No.
drivers that are out there in the world. So I agree with you on that one. One person said bare minimum should be $3, and then the other one said that 20% is fair for restaurants and also drivers. So I like I said, I would love for that to be true, but I just don't think it's reality. And I just don't think that, customers see the same reality that we see.
Yeah. So this article goes on to say that tips make all of the difference on whether the job is worth it. And of course, that part is true. They say that demand is down since the pandemic times. Also true. I think most of us can probably agree with that. But now, Kim, we had kind of touched on this a little bit before, but do you think that customers as a whole are tipping less now? Just short answer, yes or no, versus during the lockdown times.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely
Yeah.
do. I just think I think we're in a completely different mindset. I think when we were in lockdown and we couldn't get out, like I feel like it felt like we were trapped and we would do anything to have our drivers get anything for us. So I think there was
Yeah.
a different sense of urgency and appreciation now that people can go out and get things for themselves, and life is getting back to, I'll say, a new normal, because I don't even know whether we know what normal is anymore, but a new normal. I It's definitely completely changed, and I think we're all feeling some form of that in any app that we work, whether it's food delivery, rideshare, grocery delivery. I think it's just changed, but I I think we would be naive to not know that it would change just based off of pandemic versus now.
Yeah. So, what is your thoughts on the $3 minimum? I personally think that that's not quite enough.
I don't, I've never put a minimum on it, to be honest with you. I feel like, to me, the longer your distance, like your distance should also equal what you're paying your driver. I think that's more of my biggest pet peeve, because it drives me personally crazy when I see orders that are 10 miles away and the order, I'm making this up, is like 775 because the customer thought that $2 tip was going to get someone to travel 10 miles to their house. I just don't think customers think of the traveling that's involved, or that what drivers have to do. And I think that's one of my personal pet peeves. And I also think, and maybe it's just me, like I almost feel like the higher the dollar amount, I almost feel like, I don't want to say the greater the tip, because I feel like that feels like it sounds privileged, but I think that customers should tip appropriately based off of what they're ordering as well. I think that's the better way of saying it.
I completely agree. And Steve, thank you so much. Can we pop that comment up
Yeah.
there? So, Steve, you're freaking awesome, man. For those of you who don't know, Steve, Rideshare Rodeo, he's a legend. If you want to know anything that's happening in the gig economy on any level, regardless of the app, Steve is a fantastic resource. So, and he did not sponsor me to say that, by the way. That was just off the dome. Steve,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the super chat.
And there just and I know we're going to go off on a little tangent real quick because reminding me of so Steve has a lot of information regarding the hearings that are happening right now in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
regarding a lot of our drivers' rights and what's happening as far as AB5 and a lot of those laws that are looking to take effect in May. So he's going to eventually give us a really big breakdown on what's happening and the updates behind it. So stay tuned. And I know a lot of these hearings are live. So if you're ever interested, I think he put some of the links, and Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, on his channel as well. So that way you can watch it live as it's happening. It's very interesting and scary all at the same time. So go check it out.
Yeah. So I believe that's actually happening today. There's two heavy hitters within the gig economy who are before Congress today, if I'm not mistaken. And the future of whether we will be classified as W 2 employees is hanging in the balance. So this is something that we'll be keeping a close eye on, and we will obviously be talking about when we know more. So, sorry, we kind of went on a segue there for a second, or down a rabbit hole. So we were talking about tips and the minimum amount. So our next slide is a question for you guys. Would you rather be tipped a percentage of the order or based on the distance you're being asked to drive?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If you could only pick one, leave it in the chat. Kim, what would you choose?
The percentage of the order.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And there's a specific reason, and maybe it's because I'm on the large order program with Doordash.
So you're
If I
cheating.
got a large order, even a catering order, and I only got tipped based off of the distance, I would be out a lot of moolah for doing those orders. So for me, it
That's
would
fair.
definitely be tipped by percentage.
That's fair. So I think for me, it would probably, well, you know what? Okay. I'm trying to give myself outs here. I think I'd probably actually go by the mileage personally, but there's a whole slew of factors, obviously, but I think for me personally, just the mileage. It's really common for me to see, 9-10 miles in my market. So if every
Is your
order could
market
be,
spread out?
I mean, so the vast majority of the population in my county lives in my city. So I mean, yes and no. There are places that I see orders from that are 20 miles away. I don't see them very often, but it does happen. So I don't know. I just would love to see. So I guess my logic behind this is that when you tip a percentage, right, it doesn't matter how far that order is going. And we all know that these apps will try to send us, excuse me, stupid distances because drivers accept them. But if you're being paid, for the distance, we'd start seeing that circle get smaller and smaller, I think. So that's just my perspective. You guys are welcome to tell me in the chat if you guys think I'm wrong. Kim, you're welcome to tell me if I'm wrong, but
I don't think you're wrong. I think of it from a different perspective as far as distance is concerned. I think, and I think I've said this before, but I think that DoorDash should have a limit to a distance that a restaurant can deliver to, whether it's 8 miles, 7 miles, whatever it is. Like, I don't think someone from 17 miles away should be able to order from a restaurant like 5 towns over and still be able to have the same expectation. Like, I feel like there should be a limit in any one of these apps, whether it's Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, there should be a limit on how far someone can order a restaurant from. Just
so
my
I
own
think,
personal opinion.
yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you up until a point, but where I have to split with you is it depends on the compensation ultimately. I will drive 50 miles if I'm being paid $100 to do so. And it's when we're
But
talking
come
about
on, are you gonna? Do you think DoorDash or Uber Eats is really gonna pay you $100 to do a food delivery?
no, I mean, like, we're talking
Exactly.
wishful thinking, right? However, I do think that it's plausible to think that the customer could, if like, probably not on a food order, right? Because they're not going to be, given the option to summon a driver that far away. However, we have seen those one-off fluke screenshots, but can you imagine if there was something on like a specialty store or something, right, that had a 500-mile radius, just completely, theoretical. Follow me down the rabbit hole for a minute. And drivers could be sent 500 miles away because that's the radius that DoorDash set for this specific company. And you wouldn't want to probably see a percentage on that. You'd want to see mileage. So if the driver knows that they're ordering, or excuse me, the customer knows that they're ordering from something that far away, they're more likely to give that driver a bigger tip.
Yeah, I still think customers are going to tip whatever they want to tip.
I suppose.
I think that a customer honestly is only going to care how they get their item to them. Like, I still think they're going to be like, yeah, let's give them $5 to go 500 miles.
Yeah. So our next story. Oh boy.
Dun dun dun.
I forgot my boxing gloves. You know what? Gloves are coming off for this one. So, really quick before I forget, I want to give a massive shout out and thank you to Lily, who is one of my subscribers and in my Discord server, for the screenshots you are going to see next. So shout out to Lily. Thank you so much. So Kim, why don't you go ahead and read that top part for us here?
Sure. It says, if you see this pop up, please keep in mind this is, what is that? Was it 1 million? Does that say 1 million%? BS. They have not raised the fee paid to Dashers at all. This is their way of charging the customer the base pay Dashers get and pocket it for themselves. And by the way, we're talking about DoorDash.
So now, for those of you who don't know, in Baton Rouge and a couple of smaller markets in that area, DoorDash is doing something where they are not letting the customer tip up front. They can only tip after the order has been picked up. So to help offset the cost for the drivers, because DoorDash is such a stand-up company and they know that, some drivers are every so often going to get shafted now, they started implementing a new fee. So this fee starts at $1 and goes up. The more food you order, the higher that fee goes. And the further away you're ordering from, the higher up that fee goes. So when I saw this Reddit post saying that this fee isn't going to the drivers in every case, I got curious. And I reached out to Lily, who I know is in one of these affected markets. So let's go ahead and put up the next screenshot here.
Yep.
Thomas, thank you so much. So number one, okay, this is the offer screen. Now, that it's kind of a lot of miles. That's, it's about $1 a mile roughly, okay? But that's the way the offer came through, right? Now, if you take a good look at this, again, kind of small, but you'll have to trust me on this. The base pay on this was $12.75, and there was no customer tip. So that's a lot of base pay, right? So what DoorDash has been doing here is they've been jacking up the peak pay to offset the fact that customers aren't tipping. So drivers are still taking these orders. However, these unethical sons of bitches have been pulling this peak pay back dollar by dollar. And sometimes it doesn't even exist, which means every order looks like number 3 now when they don't have peak pay. So now my question is, if this dollar fee is, we're going to have to jump back to this other slide real quick, Kim.
Yep.
But my question is, if this dollar fee, minimum of $1, is going to the driver, then why are they seeing no tip orders in a $2.75 market? That should be a bare minimum of $3.75, not $2.75. DoorDash is full of shit.
I really have no words for this because like they're I feel like they're misleading the customer. So the one on the bottom is what customers see that pops up on their phone, correct?
Correct.
So if as a customer I'm reading this, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, I'm going to get charged this. This is going to go to my driver and I'm going to tip. First of all, do you cut back your tip because you're already like this fee is going to the driver as well? Because I feel like as a customer, I'm double paying the driver. So I can understand now why Baton Rouge it's Baton Rouge, right?
Baton Rouge.
Is seeing no tip orders. Like a customer's like, oh, I'm there, the fees going to the driver, so why would I have to tip as well? Which then turns to these no tip orders that all these poor drivers are seeing, but they're not seeing the fee that DoorDash is telling the customer, so they're not getting anything, which I think is absolutely
So
ridiculous.
So I want to read this off here, or at least part of this real quick. So this says Dasher support fee. To better serve Dashers, we're introducing a new fee based on the delivery distance, effort, amount ordered, and amount ordered. 100% of this fee goes to Dashers in your area. Note the wording there. It says 100% of this fee goes to Dashers in your area. It does not say 100% of this fee goes to your Dasher. If that isn't some unethical business bullshit, I don't know what is. There is
Tricky.
no way for us to verify if we are actually getting that order. Can we jump forward again to the offers?
Yeah.
Look at how these are broken down. On the on number 2 there, the payout screen, it all just shows as base pay. That is not breaking down peak pay. That's not breaking down what the base pay was, and it sure as shit isn't showing that fee. So how are we supposed to know that we're actually getting it?
It honestly, it just makes my head just shake. Like that's just some ethical stuff that is going on. But this isn't. I mean, yes, I think it's the first time that they are experimenting with this. But I feel like DoorDash is known for putting in wording that is always misleading. Like they're known for saying, well, your tips may be higher and you're expecting a tip that's higher. And they're like, nope, I used the word maybe, so you didn't get it.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like they use maybe a lot. They use could be. They use terminology that like people don't catch, and if you don't read it thoroughly through, you think one thing and there's a loophole behind it, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
So there's actually another example of deceptive wording in number 3 there. So again, I don't expect you guys to read that. We kind of had to make do with the space we had on the slides, but that says total may be higher. Kim, how many times have you gotten a no-tip order where it had a hidden tip?
Never. Neverland.
Never. So another prime example of DoorDash doing something hard to verify, at absolute best, hard to verify. At worst, driver isn't actually getting it. So, and based on what Lily was telling me, Lily was under the impression that drivers think they're getting this fee 100% of the time, when that's clearly not the case.
Not when you get $2.75 order. Where's the wiggle room for that extra fee unless they drop their base pay, and we don't know that they dropped their base pay, which I know that they haven't.
So yeah, okay, actually, in some markets they have been. And this is something we might cover in a little more depth next week. But some markets are now going down to $2 from $2.50. So if they're doing something with the pay here, and I'm still trying to figure out what that is. But the fact that we can't see the breakdown makes it very difficult to solve that. If we had the actual breakdown of the numbers, we could verify, yes, in fact, this is true, or no, it's not. But I'll tell you what, this doesn't look good for them.
No, I think that this fee is covering the base pay so DoorDash doesn't have to come out of pocket, and then DoorDash is pocketing the rest.
Maybe they feel like getting sued for this again. You remember when they got sued for stealing part of the customer tip to cover base pay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing something. And actually, matter of fact, a new terms of service just went out to DoorDash drivers. And that makes me very concerned that there's something like this in there. So as much as I don't want to read that new terms of service, I think I'm going to have to.
Yeah,
Because I'm willing to
I
bet that there's
definitely
something in there that's going to give them an out.
Yeah, before I signed it, I read through it. Actually, talk about weird, timing. And I feel like DoorDash is so calculated with everything that they do. In my area came out during lunchtime, so I'm like, okay, I'll take my lunch early and it'll be light reading as I'm eating. Yeah, so much for light reading. It is so legalized that even me, that I'm a pretty good reader, that I'm like, what are they talking about? So for the normal person, it's not an easy read to get through, and I understand that it's all legal terms, but I don't know if a lot of dashers would actually understand, even if something like this was hidden in the terms of service somewhere.
Yeah. So here's the problem with shit like this, right? The terms of service are written by lawyers for judges to understand, not the people who are actually agreeing to them. And I think that that's problematic. Like the last Uber terms of service, there was some janky stuff in there. And I'm willing to bet we're going to see something very similar with this one. So no promises that I'm going to do a full video on it, because that is a lot of reading that I do not understand. But I will see if I can do a little bit of research, and maybe we can report back on that next week.
Okay.
So in the meantime, I think that was probably my first actual rant of Money Hungry.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So, you guys were promised some heavier topics tonight. This isn't the last heavy topic you're going to get. So bear in there with us. So our next segment is called Hot Off the Press. So this is happening in Canada, in Vancouver, British Columbia, or in British Columbia, period. Sorry, not just Vancouver. So Uber Eats drivers are now delivering cannabis. So Canada, I think it was about a year or 2 years back, federally legalized cannabis for anybody 19 and older. And I think it's actually probably 18 in a couple of provinces, but that's irrelevant. So it's not like here where it's like state by state. It is like anywhere in Canada, completely legal. So there is zero risk to the driver, with the exception of making sure that the person ordering is of age. So, Kim, do you think we could see this come to the States?
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. It got legalized in my state over a year ago, I think, at this point. I think a lot of states now are legalized with cannabis, if I'm not mistaken. I know there are still some states that aren't. So I honestly said the other day, I said, I wonder when we're going to start delivering cannabis for either DoorDash or Uber Eats, just because it has helped a lot. I don't know about your state, but with state funding, it has helped some revenue. So, and
Yep.
the one that's in this article, they partnered with Leafy, which is one of the biggest online sellers. And if I remember correctly, they were in, I'm trying to think, I don't have it down. I don't think I did.
They
But
were in
they were
Ontario before.
Yeah, but it's like thousands of retailers that they actually distribute to. So it's just a good partnership, so to speak, with it coming to British Columbia.
So here's my question. So I think we could potentially see this, but I think we'd have to see some federal legislation change in the U.S. before this became a thing. I think that companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats would probably be worried about getting smacked down by the feds, as Doesn't matter how many states have it legalized if it's federally illegal, right? The feds could come, kicking your door down like goons in the middle of the night at any point that they choose to. So, I think that we could potentially see something like this happen, where we see Uber Eats and DoorDash and Grubhub and those other ones we had never heard of start to get involved. But I think it would take some changes. Now, here's the question. And those of you in the chat, I would love it if you guys would jump in with just a simple yes or no as well. Kim, if this did come to your area and the money was right, are you delivering some green?
No. And there's a reason why. I don't do alcohol delivery. And
Okay.
I feel like it goes with the same concept of alcohol delivery. Like I just don't want the responsibility, to be honest with you, of alcohol
Okay.
delivery and the ID and kind of what gets involved in it. So I personally don't do alcohol delivery. Plus, it just came to my state like a couple of months ago, alcohol delivery. But to me, I feel like it's along the same lines as alcohol delivery. So that would be my reason why.
Okay. So I am probably going to shock a lot of people here. I've been very vocal about my unwillingness to touch alcohol orders. I would actually probably do this. And the when you're dealing with somebody who's drinking, you never know what you're going to get, right? If you don't know that person, you don't know if they're a happy drunk, if they're a belligerent drunk, a lovey-dovey drunk, right? You just never know. But when somebody is consuming this other substance, it's almost always a completely different story, right? And they're always, they're happy, they're go lucky, they don't have any cares, right? I'm not worried about somebody attacking me. I'm not worried about my safety if somebody's just enjoying a little bit of green. I live in a college town, and it is almost a daily occurrence for me to smell that to somewhere that I'm delivering. And, so what difference does it make if I'm bringing them that or food? The one thing that I would be a little concerned about is potentially getting robbed depending on the quantity that they're ordering. So that is definitely a pungent smell, or at least so I'm told. But if somebody smells that on you and they have, ill intentions or something, then, you could potentially run into some folks that you don't want to see who would like to alleviate the product from you.
Yeah, mine's more, I guess, because I'm a mom. I think like mom wise, like I worry about the minor piece of it and being legally
Mm,
responsible for
mhm.
distributing something that I shouldn't, or if someone's trying to get away with getting stuff that they're not supposed to. So I guess for me also it's a minor issue. Like I don't want to be responsible for some kid getting something that they're not supposed to get just because they're trying to get away with it or
That's
trying to do
fair.
it illegally. And I feel like there's a lot of ifs.
Hmm.
It's always easier to talk when it's not like right in front of you than
Yeah,
when
that's
it's like
fair.
actually here and say, should I do it? Because a lot of times, money talks. Let's face it. A lot of orders
Yeah.
we do, money talks. And I think that would have a lot to do with like a lot of our decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. So I guess for me, it's more, I live in a, hippie town, a college town. So I think it's probably something that's far more common for me to see and be around than maybe a lot of people in other parts of the country. So for me, I just don't even bat an eye at it. So, again, I'm not worried about my safety with something like that, with the exception of maybe random people knowing it's on me. But yeah, I mean, I'd, uh, I'd give it a shot. So, I mean, most people in the chat are saying no, they probably wouldn't. We've had a few, including Shayana, hello, by the way, saying she would. So, yeah, for those of you who are just joining us, I saw a few questions pop up here. Canada is in a couple of provinces now delivering cannabis through Uber Eats. So we have been discussing that. So interesting topic to cover for sure. So this next one, oh, this one's going to be. So Kim and I actually had a dedicated conversation about this prior to the show. I'm like, we need to get together and talk about this. So The mayor of Tacoma, Washington, there we go, couldn't think of the city for a minute, has partnered with DoorDash to provide $20,000 worth of gift cards to housing authority residents. Kim?
So, uh, uh, first of all, anybody who does anything good for a community, I commend, just because I love, me personally, giving to organizations and also families and people who are less fortunate than me. I'm a giver. I love giving. I love giving. So to me, this really gets my heartstrings, just because DoorDash is doing something good. The
Mm,
problem I have with this, it was very vague. It says $20,000 in gift cards. It doesn't say how much the gift cards were for, how many people it's being distributed to. It says that it's a community, and it was a very specific housing authority community, but how are they distributing it? How do you know it's going to the right people? Like, I feel like there's a
yeah.
lot of what ifs and not a lot of answers were answered in this article. I feel like a lot of times when articles come out like this, I feel like it's good publicity
Yeah.
and not the true. This is exactly what's happening. This is who's getting it. This is, the good that's behind it. This is what people are ordering. This is how it's helping their family. Like, you don't get the true story. And I'm more about learning the families it helped and how it affected the family, as opposed to here's $20,000.
So, can we please put up Al's comment? What's going on,
Um,
Al? Good to see you, brother.
this one.
That's the one. So this was something that Kim and I had talked about. So Al says another no tip opportunity, and I agree completely. So I'm, in all fairness, I did try to research this, and I'm not 100% sure that the customers wouldn't be given the option to tip. The thing with this, right? We're not talking about food bank orders. We're not talking about explicitly groceries. The article went on to say that these customers can order anything on the DoorDash app. And when I hear anything, I take that to mean you can order alcohol, you can order, $100 worth of sushi, you can order steak, whatever, anything. So I start to take an issue, and you know what, Kim, I agree. I agree. There's folks that need help, but I think that there's a different way to do it. If we're talking, if DoorDash really wanted to come in and do this, why couldn't they donate food directly, right? They can team up with local food banks. They can do that. They can gather school supplies for kids. They can go to the stores and shop for, I don't know, soap, shampoo, mouthwash, body wash, toilet paper, right? Stuff that people need to survive. But the thing, and at the risk of sounding callous, this shit is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we work our asses off, Kim. I don't get free DoorDash.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's where I gotta, I think that they went about this in a very bad way, personally.
I
Dee
think this
wants to
has
get them hooked on the service.
it has some truth behind it.
I think you're
I
probably right there.
I you know I actually, now that you said that, like a light bulb like went off in my head, and I'm actually, how why couldn't they have partnered with a local restaurant? And I know local restaurants want free publicity all the time, because who would you rather go to? A restaurant that supports the community and does well for the community, or another restaurant down the street? It's good. It's a win-win for both restaurants. Why couldn't they have found a restaurant that would say on this day, every resident in this housing authority, we're going to deliver
So
X, Y, and Z.
yeah, so there's a restaurant in my market, and because because they were doing something really cool. I'm actually going to say the name of it. Usually I leave mom and pop names out of it. There's a place called Busara Thai Cuisine in my market in Bellingham, and for a good long time during the lockdowns, they had two different jars. They had their tip jar, and then they had another jar that said food bank fund, and it said we will match 100% of what you put in here. And I've been a patron of that restaurant for years, and I know the owner, and I think that they were following through. And so I would end up leaving a few bucks in the tip jar, right? And I'd also end up leaving a few bucks in the food bank jar. I don't think that there's ever been a point in any of our lives where we haven't needed some help in some way or another. So I agree that these are the kind of things that, like, people have basic human needs, right? Whether you agree with DoorDash doing this or not,
Yeah.
people have, people need food, right? They need to take a shower from time to time. They have basic things that we need to survive. So sure, I mean, if DoorDash wants to be, a knight in shining armor, then great. Go to Costco and shop for $5,000 worth of toothbrushes, soap, loofahs, whatever that is, and pass those out. But don't involve the drivers when we're likely, again, keyword likely, not going to get a tip. Because that same shit would have cost me 40, 50, 60 bucks to order through the app. And they're going to get it for free.
Yeah. What's more meaningful?
Rant.
I know, I know, it's all good. But what's, from a human perspective, what's more meaningful? A company just saying that we're going to write a check for $20,000 or gift cards for $20,000, or you hear about on the news, DoorDash partners with whatever restaurant and delivers 20,000 free meals to a housing authority in this neighborhood, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the neighborhood gets fed. And like, you see the news articles, and a family comes in and says, oh my God, thank you so much, I have 5 kids and I haven't eaten it. Like, it becomes more heartfelt if it's more community involved. This to me is just like, I'm going to write this community. It's $20,000. We can write it off. It's a drop in the bucket. Here you go. Have a nice day. And I'll get some press out of it. It doesn't come across as genuine. I think it just comes across as, here's money.
I agree with that. So to quote you on this, actually, so you were saying when we were talking about this before, Kim made a very valid point. So DoorDash does the We Dash program, or at least they were until recently, where their employees were driving at least once a month. So
Yeah.
instead of doing these no tip opportunities for the driver, why don't they have their own W-2 employees do something charitable for their We Dash time rather than the drivers getting involved? So,
I
you know
forgot I
what?
said
Hey,
that.
if you guys want to
It's good.
accept, yeah, no, because it made perfect sense. I thought it was like, instead of sticking us with the horse shit, why don't they do it? They're getting paid a guaranteed hourly rate. We're not. So yeah, that's just my perspective. Again, at the risk of sounding, cold, I think that they could have handled this in a much different way and had, just as great of an effect.
And not to say, well, funny thing, I think that's the wrong terminology, but I didn't even put it in these show notes. There was even another article that came out. I just didn't put it in because I felt like it was doing the same article again. They did the same thing to an elderly community on the same week for elderly people that couldn't get out of their housing just because they didn't have vehicles or stuff like that. So, and I think that, if I remember correctly, I think the sum was $20,000. And I'm like, hey, I need $20,000. Does that work?
Yeah, can you imagine calling DoorDash being like, "Hey, 20 grand sounds nice. You should hook it up. You can just put it in my Dasher account. Just
That's all.
20 large. Drop in the bucket for you guys, right?" they'd laugh and read us a script, right? Like, oh, you're going to get paid based on base pay and distance and possible customer tip. They're not going to give us 20 grand, but
Can you imagine? Wouldn't this be funny if somebody literally called DoorDash support and said, "Hey, I heard on the news that you're giving out blah 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 blah," and the customer support's like you hear like thumbing through the pages, like, I don't have a script for this one. What do I say? Oh, I am so sorry to hear about your inconvenience. I am here to help you today, Kimberly.
yeah. So I'll see if I could get a hold of a friend of mine in my market showed me a recent conversation with DoorDash over something janky they're doing with our base pay. And it was clear that they didn't have a script for it. So maybe we'll include that if I can get her permission in the what the funny section for next week. So it's really actually quite humorous when they don't have a script for the exact issue. So, all right, next. So the next story comes with a bit of a warning. We're going to play a video clip, and this lady is not classy at all. Okay, she's about as classy as I am. So there will be some F-bombs in this video. If you are at a restaurant or something like that, somebody
Or
in
have kids
earshot,
around, cover their ears.
yeah. So we will give you a warning before we play the video. But
Exactly why they shouldn't.
Sorry.
okay.
Ready?
Nope. Not quite. So yeah, let's tell the story real quick first. So this lady went on an absolute tirade about getting the wrong order. And admittedly, from the looks of it, she did. So she got super pissed off and took to TikTok to vent her frustration for the driver not verifying her name. So the name was wrong on the receipt as she showed. But the way she handled it, that's what we're going to talk about after. All right, guys, fair warning. This does have some language in it, worse than anything I've said tonight. So if you got kids around or if you're in a restaurant, good time to mute it. When the video goes away, it'll be safe again.
Require you to tip ahead of time. People should do their jobs before they get their tip. This is not my fucking order. My name is not Eddie. This was on the outside of the bag so the driver could clearly see this order. I ordered 2 sandwiches. That's it. And this is what I get. Like, what the fuck, DoorDash? Your drivers are fucking idiots.
So, all right, I'm going to pick on her for a minute. So in order to get that clip, I had to go to her TikTok, and she has bright pink hair. So nothing against anybody with bright pink hair, but what if I were to say that everybody with bright pink hair is an effing idiot? I don't think she would appreciate being generalized.
I agree. I come from a world, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So I just don't. I understand why someone would be upset that they're expecting their order, and if you're hangry, like I know me, like if I'm hungry, like I get pretty hangry. You can ask my husband, but I don't go on tirades when stuff like this happen. Does it stink? Yeah, it absolutely does. It's horrible not getting the order that you wanted because you're like I don't know, like you want to order something and like you like visualize it. And you're like, oh, good. But I think a lot of our customers don't understand. If you just call DoorDash customer support, they will take care of everything for you. Like you don't need to slam drivers. And I think a lot of times, and this is just my opinion, customers think that drivers are perfect, and we're far from perfect. Like mistakes do happen. In life, mistakes happen. You deal with it and you move on.
So, okay. So she's obnoxious. I'm just going to throw that out there, right?
Yeah.
Here is the driver's response to you, or at least this driver. Okay. I am not an idiot. At least I don't think I am. My subscribers are most certainly not idiots. The people who watch this channel are not idiots, right? I have personally never had a double in the car and delivered the wrong order. I have never walked out of a restaurant with the wrong order. Shit happens. Maybe the maybe the driver was having a bad day, or it was their first double or something. We don't know, right? Stuff happens. However, the way that this was handled was completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
If she handled this the right way, she could have ended up with free food and the correct food, which would have been a wash. She could have ring a ding ding. She could have called up support, been like, "Hey, I got the wrong order." She could chat with them, send a picture of the receipt, right? And some customer service rep could copy and paste a script. She'd get a full refund. She could reorder, get what she wants, and then she's got additional food. But no, she had to go on the internet and make an ass of herself.
Yeah, like I said, I just believe if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And I hate to say, if you're gonna rant to someone, rant to your husband, your spouse. Just like, don't go on social media. You just make a fool out of yourself, and it's not a good look on you.
Yeah. So, you know what? And the fact that she's willing to attack an entire group of people, I've got no problem calling her out for it. So, that could be a very interesting discussion. So if anybody knows who that TikToker is, I'd love to have a conversation with her live.
Oh, that would
See,
be that would be interesting.
Yeah. See how that goes over. So, and honestly, look, I think that TikTok is a cesspool of ignorant shit like this. Okay. We see this kind of stuff all the time, right? People are looking for their 30 seconds of fame at somebody else's expense. So it was a small thing. It was a minor little thing. And I'm sorry, it did not garner the tens and tens of thousands of views that she got because somebody made one tiny little simple mistake.
I honestly, like, videos like this on TikTok or anywhere else, I hate reading comments because once one person starts bashing somebody, like, they just keep coming in one after another another after another, and then like a driver sees this and then they come defending the driver, which the driver was wrong. I mean, they made a mistake, they did the wrong the wrong order, but I don't know. I just think it's people's way of not ranting over stuff they don't need to rant over.
Yeah, and honestly, people just look for attention these days on the internet. So, I suppose it could be argued that we're no different as YouTubers, but I don't think that any of us have gone on a tirade at, one specific other person's expense. So, anyway, maybe she was having a bad day, but at the end of the day, we all make mistakes, right? And that was a minor mistake that would have easily gotten sorted out. So, sorry that you didn't get your 2 sandwiches that you ordered, lady, but small mistake and didn't warrant acting the way she did.
No.
So, Kim, you do Shipt, correct?
I do Shipt. Yep.
Okay, so I don't. This is one of the few apps, and actually, I got a funny story about my limited experience with Shipt after this. But why don't you go ahead and introduce this one for us?
Yeah, so I actually think this is pretty genius, to be honest with you. So Shipt partnered with Extended Stay, and they actually are giving guests of Extended Stay almost like a free trial of Shipt for the times that they are at the hotel, so they can do any kind of last minute stuff that they might have forgotten, or they can just use the service. And then once the trial's over with, they're going to be given the option when they go home to extend the service. So I thought it was pretty ingenious to really partner with a hotel for all your necessities that you might need when you're traveling.
I think that's really cool. So this is one of those times that I don't feel like a partnership is gimmicky or weird or goofy. I think that this probably actually has some legitimate value. I know when I'm staying in a hotel, I am almost always in a different city that I'm unfamiliar with. So rather than trying to navigate the city and, wind up at a grocery store that I pray doesn't have whole food prices, you can get on the app, right? You can shop around for prices and you can have it delivered right to your hotel door. So I think that this is probably one of those things that's super convenient, and I could see a lot of benefit in this personally.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm surprised that no delivery service has kind of thought about this prior to this. I actually think it's a really good partnership, especially when you're traveling. In this case, it's extended stay, which a lot of
Mhm.
people are there for longer periods of time because they're usually in temporary housing or business. And
Mhm.
I'm to me, I'm like, that's really ingenious. Good job, Shipt.
Yeah. So Shipt is a Target company, and they're partnering with In Town Suites, and they are going to be doing this in 22 states. So Uptown Suites is one of them. Mainsail Lodge. And a few others. So, and this will be available at over 1,000 destinations. So, if you are a Shipt shopper, uh, you could potentially see one of these opportunities come your way in the very near future.
So stay tuned. Go to
So,
extended stay.
yeah, right. So, really quick, I want to go on a quick tirade about Shipped. So, this is one of the few that actually has you do like an interview process,
Mm.
and I didn't know that. So they started sending me these links to click on, and they started giving me this like behavioral interview that I had to like type questions into, and that did not go over well with me. So they're asking me how I would react to to certain situations and stuff like that. And my response to every one of those questions was, this is not a W 2 job, or, this is a gig job. And so I'm just going through answering the same thing. Like, you guys could deactivate me without cause at any point. There's no union rep there to represent me. If a customer lies and says they didn't get the order, kiss my ass. You guys aren't interviewing me like that. You activate me or you don't. So that's my rant with Ship. Oh, and then they thought I was gonna get on camera, show off this mug, and answer more questions so they could like read my body language or something. Hell no. You're muted.
When I'm lucky, when I signed up for Shipt, everything was done online, and maybe it's because like it was right after like everything was opening up. So literally everything was done online. I didn't even have to do like show myself or anything like that, but I did have to answer some questions, and I'm like, this is grocery delivery, right? But then I was thinking, so I actually interviewed for Target many, many years ago. And it was one of the most intense interviews I've ever been through. So
Really?
they're really about, at least when I interviewed with them, the experience, and as a leader, how you're going to bring your experience and motivate your team. And it was all like rah rah team building, go target type of interview. And it was like the questions were situation after situation after situation. And they're like, how many situations can you really think of? But if the interview was like literally 2 hours long, and I had to go through 3 different people. It was intense, and I'm thinking, well, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand. Their shift is just as intense as their regular interview is. I guess it's kind of all the way around.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm not playing that game. If I had some sort of like employee protections or something like that where I could appeal, and Shipped is like one of the few that you actually can't appeal a deactivation. So I no, when I saw those interview questions, I was like, my response was essentially pretty much that. So uh so you know what, I am grateful to see that they are uh partnering up with these various hotels, and I think that that'd be a good move for the customers. But I never took Shipped seriously because you do the work and then hope that you get tipped. So I'm just not a fan of hypotheticals on the gig apps when it comes to my time and money. So we have another video for you guys, and again, this one has some language as well. So this woman reports a DoorDash driver after a series of disrespectful messages and no food delivery. To quote her, I would have drove to McDonald's and confronted her. So this is probably best if we play the first minute or so of the video. So I think she kind of tells the story the best. Kim, be watching the private chat. I'll tell you when. We'll talk about when the best time to cut this off is in the private chat because it's quite long.
Okay. So I apologize ahead of time, guys, because when I heard this, I'm like, ooh. So you have little ears, cover them, just FYI.
Yep. More language coming at you. Go for it, Kim.
Okay.
And pull us down if you can. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
That doesn't. Take my chances. It gets picked up. The girls already.
You just want to start it over?
Yeah.
Right next to
Oh, there it goes.
I'm like, oh great, this will be here in no time. When she messages me, the top got cut off, but it just says that she's in the drive-thru and that her brake job that she got done is screaming at her, so tips are really appreciated. Which I'm like, okay, that's a strange message to send someone, but I'm like, thank you. I'll add more tip after delivery. Keyword more, because I already tipped her before the checkout process. Anyways, then she proceeds to send me this, basically saying that like people don't tip and people in certain neighborhoods aren't getting their food delivered because they don't tip, and delivery drivers' lives matter too, no matter what color we are. How about that? Half the time you don't get your food because you're not tipping. I'm just being real with you. And I'm like, okay, this girl's probably had a bad day. She's frustrated. At this point, I'm trying to still be nice because I'm like, I want my food. So I'm like, I do tip, and I actually did tip before I checked out too. I was saying I was going to add more because I had already tipped. I would understand where you're coming from. I've worked for tips for years. Once again, trying to rationalize with this woman because I want my fucking food. To which she says, you're going to need to put on clear mode to read this if you want to read it. But basically she said, I'm about to drop your order and let somebody else take it since you feel like I don't deserve a tip until I get there, whatever. I know this game, I'm not in the mood tonight, and I'm not playing with y'all bitches, and da-da-da. And once again, I want my food. So I'm still trying to rationalize with her. I said, I did tip before I checked out. And then she didn't answer me for a couple minutes. So I was like, okay, but cancel my order if you're not going to take it so I can order something else. And then she goes off the fucking deep. And this is, you can literally see the top right here that says the end of something else, where the screenshot I just showed you, where she says, where I say, can you just cancel it so I can order something else? She responds with this whole thing, okay? Pause to read, pause to fucking read. It's a trip, really. So I was like, okay, so if anybody's ordered Doordash, you can't cancel your order after you already have a dasher assigned, because like they won't refund you. So now I'm like, oh, this is so fucking annoying. And now I'm like, this woman clearly isn't thinking rationally. So I'm like, and she has my address. Like no door, like Dasher's out right now.
So that was quite the tirade. So, can we highlight Thomas's comment, his most recent one?
Yeah.
So I'd like to have a discussion about this. Oh no, not that one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where was it? Yep, that one. So Kim and I didn't discuss this ahead of time. Kim, do you think that this happened?
Well, she has the text. I think she was a no-tip person, to be honest with you. And she was saying that she tipped the customer. Do I think the DoorDash driver should have messaged her all of that? No, because DoorDash can, first of all, if you guys don't know, DoorDash can pull up any in-message text that you have with your customer, and vice versa. If the customer reports you, they have all that. So if you ever text something like this, I would expect deactivation, just because I know they have a no tolerance policy towards disrespectfulness. So just FYI, if you ever decide to go on a tirade like this,
so
I think she didn't tip, honestly, because why would a DoorDash driver actually say, you didn't tip me? Are you going to tip me when you get to the door?
Right.
Tip. That's just my own take on it.
So I agree with your synopsis on that. I think she probably didn't tip. And I mean, drivers who have been doing this longer than a week know if an order is a no tip order in their market. The thing that threw me off was one of the messages from the driver went on this tirade about how it's Uber Eats that doesn't show if the customer tipped up front, and that hasn't been the case for about 2 years now. So I don't know if this video is old or if it was fabricated. Something else I noticed, I can tell when the customers read the messages. It says red. Now, what I don't know is if the customers can see when we read it. So those all say delivered to me. They don't say red anywhere.
Yeah, I actually agree with Jennifer. We are not entitled to tips, and I agree with that. And I also agree with her when she said that the driver was wrong. That is harassment. The
Yeah.
driver was completely wrong. Like, there's no
Yeah.
need to ever
So
be like that with any customer. What talk about like bad customer service, like 101 and like road to deactivation in 2 seconds? Like,
oh
that's
yeah.
the way to do it. If you're gonna go out with Doordash with a bang, there you go.
That's the way to do it, I suppose. So yeah, I agree that this likely wasn't a order with a tip on it. For argument's sake, let's say, this did happen. I am probably more inclined to say it did happen, but I did notice that those couple of small inconsistencies that kind of made me wonder. But anyway, so of course this was flat out harassment, right? Like in researching the show, every single week so far that I have done research for this show, and I'm sure Kim can attest to the same thing here.
Yep.
We have seen articles where the driver is hitting up the customer for more tip money. And take a quick scroll through Reddit, and I bet you if you spend 5 minutes on Reddit, I bet you will find 2 or 3 of those at least in 5 minutes. So, guys, don't be that driver. That is a fantastic way to get yourself deactivated, even if you are as kind as Kim is about it. So, do not do that. This screams, I want to be deactivated.
I see and I know you probably just said this, but like, I see all the time on Facebook, on Reddit, any one of these platforms, I can't tell you how many times I see like even customers posting like notes from driver. My Venmo number is, or my Cash App ID is, if you want to do an extra. I'm thinking, oh my God, like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's just like bad customer service 101. It like,
Yeah.
and like deactivatable, like 100%. And even if you think you're doing the right thing, don't
You're
do that.
not.
Like, don't do it. I always go, no.
Yeah. So, if the order pays like shit, then don't do it. Just don't accept the order, right? People who aren't going to tip aren't going to all of a sudden take sympathy on you. So, I got to be honest. Like, I'm sick of seeing these kind of posts because I'm sure that they do happen. I'm sure all these customers are not fabricating this. There are plenty of drivers out there that are hitting up their customers, being like, "You need to tip me more," or "You need to tip," or whatever. Right? If you truly do want to be passive aggressive, just let those orders time out. You can make them wait longer.
Or better yet, give good customer service. And now that in my area, customers have the option to tip after they deliver on top of what they tip. So you can get an extra tip after your delivery if you give really good customer service. So to me, there's just no need.
There's no excuse for it.
No.
So we're under no obligation to accept these orders to begin with. Just like the customers aren't obligated to tip, we are not obligated to take the orders. So, look at every order as a contract, okay? If you don't agree with the amount you're going to be paid, don't accept the contract. Simple. Once you accept that order, then, you need to be comfortable with the amount you're going to make. I don't find myself getting mad about orders I take because I accept them based on the pay and the distance and whether I think I'm going to be waiting a while. So, obviously this is uncalled for and drivers should know better. So, if you're one of the drivers who do that, heed our warning, do not do that. It's a great way to get deactivated, get 1-star ratings, piss off your customers, and end up on the internet.
Yeah, Sergio, if you're still here, I know your worth.
Yeah, exactly. So, our next story is another one of those.
Your worth.
Yeah. Another driver confronts another customer. These seem to go viral once every couple of months too. So the lady on the far right, excuse me, had a brain fart there, supposedly claimed that the order never arrived, despite the driver getting it from another one of her coworkers that they saw the driver hand her the order. So this driver got a contract violation and went back to confront the customer about that. So unfortunately, we don't have the video for this, but
It's been all over YouTube this entire week. So I'm pretty sure we just got into YouTube and
won't be hard to find.
It'll come right up.
So of course, never do this either, right? Never, ever, ever do this as a driver. Never do that. Great way to get deactivated. But I will say this. Yeah, I will say this. The driver was respectful. He got his point across. He was respectful. While still probably getting himself deactivated. So the customer just played dumb. And can we highlight Al's comment for a minute again?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was actually going to text Al about this earlier, and unfortunately I ran out of time. I was actually going to tell his story. So I did I think it was a great video a while back on how to deal with customers who do this kind of stuff. When they claim that the order never showed up, when it in fact did, do not confront them. Call support and get their confirmation that it's okay for the police to get involved, and call the cops on them. Let's see that trend go viral.
That would be awesome. There was, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was maybe a month or so ago that it actually, I'm trying to remember the story. It was a nurse, I think, at a hospital, and she claimed that her food never got delivered, and the guy went back to the lady because he dropped it off of the desk, and the lady said that this nurse came and got her food, so she definitely got it. So he was on the phone with support, and support heard everything, and they called over security of the hospital and made the nurse, come down. And security actually forced her to admit that she reported it falsely. And then security of the hospital called the cops.
That's great. So
it was awesome.
So Bud Soda, I disagree with you, my friend. Whether it's civil or not, in most places, the police still will show up, and they are committing fraud. So that is actually illegal. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Cray nay. Thank you so much for the super chat there. Appreciate you. So again, there may be some differing opinions on this, but I agree with Al. Call the cops. The worst thing, and use non-emergency numbers, of course. But the worst thing that they can say is, we're not getting involved, right? Now, if you just happen to be there with a camera filming the interaction between the police and these customers, and that goes viral, hey, might send a pretty strong message that some drivers aren't going to tolerate that shit. So when go ahead. Sorry, you had a thought.
No, I was just like, it would be amazing if that trend actually went viral. Like, I don't know, there are so many videos that we've seen through the years, at least I've seen through the years, of just customers telling other customers, this is how you get free food on Doordash. This is how you get free food on your Breeds.
Yeah.
And it just snowballs, and they just keep trying it over and over and over again. It would be really nice if these people know that there's consequences behind some of their actions and what it causes when they do it.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I think that all it would take is a couple of videos to blow up, to see that trend slow or stop completely. Yeah. So I have actually never gotten a contract violation on DoorDash, but believe me, the first time I do,
I can't say that. I haven't gotten a contract violation for this. I've gotten a contract violation for something else, but never for a customer reporting that my order was missing.
I had somebody pull that on Uber Eats when I was brand new to the platform, but they handle that stuff a little different. So that's a story for a different day. But I've never had it happen on Uber Eats. On Grubhub or DoorDash. So I've been fortunate there. But again, I also take orders where people, tipped well and respect my time. So you're far less likely to run into the types of people who are going to do this if they, respect your time, financially, right? That's just my 2 cents. So the lady did end up admitting that she had the order. She tried to make some excuses that it's a shared
Somebody else
account.
ordered it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's a shared account, and somebody else may have marked that it never showed up. So whether or not that's true, of course, we will never know. But this is the kind of stuff where drivers put themselves at risk, and it's nice that customers might second guess whether the driver's going to show back up. But at the same time, I'd argue that there's a more effective way. But we've already talked about that. So yeah. So anyway, if you guys want to share your thoughts on that, what do you think the most effective way for a driver to handle that situation would be? If you guys want to leave it in the chat, that'd be awesome. But ultimately, whatever you do, make sure you are able to prove that you were where you were supposed to be. Get pictures of apartment numbers, get pictures of building numbers, house numbers, whatever. And if possible, when you take those leave it at the door pictures, make sure that house number is visible. And the pictures that you can't make it visible, keep them for a couple weeks. These apps have our GPS data.
I don't know, Chris, where's your food?
So, moving on, another driver went viral for a pretty goofy reason. And Kim, again, this is one of those things that kind of pisses me off, and I'm getting sick of seeing this stuff, which is why I wanted to cover this.
This woman, to me, I thought it was stupid because I feel like this is everyday knowledge for an experienced driver.
Yeah.
I got a total of 22 orders and only accepted 7 of them. And then she goes on and basically explains explanation ride along style of why she took an order versus why she didn't take an order. And it went viral. And she's like, I'm at 45% acceptance rate. I'm like, wow, girl, that's high.
Yeah. So her overall acceptance rate is 45%, to clarify. So her acceptance rate for that evening was 33%. And I'm thinking to myself, then why the hell is this story going viral? Right? Is this supposed to shock the customers that this driver only took 33% of the orders? And these articles are written, again, in my opinion, to divide customers from drivers, right? Because I see that number as a driver and think, wow, 33%, man, that is a freaking high acceptance rate, in my opinion, right? Not in yours, but
I'm like, I can't say anything because I have a high acceptance rate on DoorDash. But
yeah.
To me, I'm like, this isn't news. This is just an everyday occurrence that a driver goes through on DoorDash. So I just didn't understand, honestly, why it went viral, because I'm like, next.
Exactly. So this was covered by the Daily Dot. And again, we're covering this because the stupidity, honestly, of the fact that the media is picking up on stuff like this. This is just an everyday, thing for drivers. So I have some kind of mixed feelings about the driver herself and the video she made. I don't know if you watched her video.
Yeah.
Okay. So she seemed to actually have some market knowledge, and she went through these orders and showed examples on, why she accepted or why she declined. And her rule of thumb was $1 a mile, which, mine has been as low as $1 a mile in the past when gas has been really low. However, more recently it's gone up to $1.50 a mile. It's been as high as $2 a mile. It just all ultimately depends on the cost of gas. So her rule of thumb is $1 a mile, and that's fine. So the thing that threw me through a loop, though, with this specific driver, is the fact that she said that she was entertaining the idea of taking some really low paying orders that were only going a couple of miles. So it set the precedent to the customer, in my opinion, that, these drivers aren't doing their jobs, right? Because she, I highlighted this part in red. She only completed 7, right? if I was that driver, then man, I took a lot of freaking orders percentage wise. But and then she kind of goes back into the, I know my worth, but I also kind of don't because I'm considering taking these low paying orders as well. So the whole article was just kind of weird. And honestly, I don't know why it's news. And I wish that the media would just get off us about this kind of crap. What do you think, Kim?
Yeah. No, I agree. I was trying to do real quick because her total for the night was $45, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So 45 divided by 7. So she did $6.42 per delivery.
Yeah. So, and
So even
part
cherry
of,
picking, she's really not making money.
so yeah, and a big part of that came from the fact that she had gotten a $15 order that she accepted. So that really kind of skewed her numbers even further. This specific driver was somewhere in Kansas. It did not, looking at the map on the orders, it didn't look like a particularly big area. So there's a lot of information that we don't have about this. We don't know the day of the week. I don't think we know the day of the week, do we?
Sorry,
I don't remember
no, I
seeing
don't.
that.
Chris's this made me laugh. Chris, is she driving a Land Rover?
So, it's like a driver who's almost there, in my opinion, but hasn't quite crossed that threshold of I'm going to play by my own rules. So, again, my take is I wish that sites this recognizable would stop writing ignorant articles that set the precedent that we're lazy when we're actually just trying to make money. Because not one point in that article did it state that we're not making an hourly rate or anything like that. So, it's very one-sided again, which is what we tend to see with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the Daily Dot does only TikTok. I wish they would do a lot more other social media stuff like YouTube to get a real account. Like when they do
Yeah.
TikToks, like it's literally seconds of someone spewing information, and that's what they're getting their basis off
Yeah.
of, rather than like actually knowing what happens or what drivers are going through or the situation. Like they're literally getting snapshots and they're not accurate.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, my takeaway from this driver mostly was that she knew her worth and was usually declining bad orders. I would love that article to say that drivers are under no obligation to accept a single order and we can reject whatever we want, which is exactly what Indiana is trying to do. So we have all seen, well, presumably we have all seen place and pay orders on DoorDash, depending on how long you've been there. Wendy's used to be like that. When you use your red card at a restaurant, Grubhub was notorious for it. So was Postmates.
They still are.
Well, we're gonna come back to that here in a little bit for my market, but there is a bill that is making its way through the Indiana House where restaurants can completely opt out of drivers picking up these orders. So essentially, if they're not partnered, if they didn't sign that agreement to partner with that restaurant, the companies, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, whatever, could be fined $50,000 per infraction when a driver shows up to pick up an order if they didn't agree to be on the platform to begin with. Kim.
Crazy. First of all, I actually agree with this because from a driver's perspective, so DoorDash, I don't think does really red card shopping. I mean, order and pays anymore that I know of. I feel like they
haven't for a while.
They've done away with it. So I feel like this is more of an Uber Eats, Grubhub type of thing. Yeah. I feel really awkward a lot of time. Like I actually stopped doing them because I've had bad experiences on both apps when I first started on both of these platforms. Uber Eats, I feel like they can never get their pricing right, and like the card never goes through and it becomes more of a headache. Grubhub, I feel like they're like a little bit more sneaky. Go in and say the customer's name. Don't let them know you're from Grubhub, and
Exactly.
like
I remember that.
so the restaurant doesn't know you're a driver. Like,
Yep.
I feel like it's very uncomfortable as a driver doing some of these orders.
Oh, I
But from
agree.
a restaurant, like I can't imagine like you not being on a platform. Awesome. And like having orders come in and you're not even on the platform and not getting credit for any of these orders coming in. Like, I feel like it's really deceptive and it's not a good way of doing business. So, from a
No,
restaurant, I think it's a really good bill, to be honest with you, that would prevent some of this stuff from happening.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree, actually. So there's actually a city ordinance where I live that bars these companies from taking menus from the restaurants and putting it on their apps. So that's illegal where I live, and it's made a difference. So there are still a few that haven't opted out, but that's a thing here. So part of the issue, at least the way I see it, is that you run into quality issues, right? If that order doesn't get picked up quickly, it's going to sit, it's going to get cold, and that customer, that font that says that the restaurant isn't affiliated, that's only visible on the website, I believe, and that's only for Grubhub, right? Like they don't advertise that restaurant isn't actually partnered. So if there's some kind of quality issue because the driver was super late getting there, that restaurant isn't even involved in it at that point, right? And there was a restaurant here for a while that had a sign that said something along the lines of Grubhub had done like 2 or 3 chargebacks. They had basically stolen the food. They never paid for it, and they were non-partnered. And so any Grubhub offer, any Grubhub driver would be asked to leave. And that's not the first restaurant that I've heard of in my market alone doing something like that. So
I just think it's
yeah,
bad business. That's just my like. If I was a restaurant owner, like I would be mad. Wouldn't you be mad if you were a restaurant
I
owner? And
I would be. Yeah. So and I mean, drivers, I love you. I really do. You guys are my people. But some of us are in a hurry and we don't always conduct ourselves in the kindest way possible to restaurant staff. So, all it takes is one jerk driver, right? And a restaurant could be like, oh, well, I don't want you in here. Some of the highest paying Grubhub orders were place and pays. And, you know, those went away because drivers were not treating the restaurant staff very well. But there's also the point of what you said, Kim. And the pricing could be 2 and 3 years old sometimes. And that became problematic when Grubhub specifically updated their account violation policy. Guess what? You do 3 place and pays in one day at a popular restaurant and they have the wrong pricing, you get deactivated. Bye bye. No appeal.
it's crazy.
So this is Indiana. Let us know in the comments with a simple yes or no if you guys would support seeing something like that in your state. So it's a yes from me.
It would definitely be a yes for me, just because I just feel so awkward doing like I feel like it's so sketchy and I feel so awkward as a driver. Like, and I've seen some really good high paying orders from doing like from it, but I'm like, to me it's just not worth it if first of all it's embarrassing when your Uber card doesn't work because the prices don't match, and then you have to explain to the restaurant why your card isn't going through, and you're like, oh, this is really embarrassing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't think it's worth it.
So yeah, I think that this is probably a great thing for the drivers, honestly, because it's gonna make us look bad ultimately, and it's going to probably save the reputation of some otherwise great restaurants. So it's, and in my opinion, it's a good thing. So there are a lot of ways that phones can be used and mismanaged, in my opinion. And Grubhub and Uber Eats, in my opinion, have been doing that when they're putting menus online that they don't have permission to use. But I want to share a story, a lighter-hearted story about a phone being misused, I don't know, or used geniusly. We're going to talk about it. So the girl with the big ass burrito got herself locked on top of her Manhattan apartment building on the roof. And her reaction to get herself unstuck from the roof was to summon an Uber Eats driver. So she ordered Chipotle of all things. What else, right? What else would you order if you're stuck on the roof, right? What is your first move, Kim? If you were stuck on the roof in New York City with your cell phone in your pocket, is your first move to order Chipotle through an app to get unstuck?
No, I think this is absolutely ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah.
I'm like, who does this? I know me. I'd be like, 911, what's your emergency? I'm locked out on a roof. Like, you have a phone, you have a means. You can call your landlord, you can call a friend, you can call a family member, you can call 911. There's so many things you can do than to waste the driver's time going to pick up an order and save you from a rooftop. Like, to me, it's ridiculous and stupid.
I agree. So, I mean, maybe she was hungry, but my first reaction would have been, hey, I'm stuck on the roof. Can you come let me in? Right? Like, I've got a couple of my neighbors' numbers. I can't see that she would be any different. And even if she didn't have neighbor friends, call your landlord, right? Like, guaranteed the unlock fee is probably going to be cheaper than that big ass burrito she's eating. So
I hope she tipped her driver really well. I mean, I know the article said that she tipped extra, I think, after he came and rescued her, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know. I just think it's stupid.
So Chris says this is the person who called the cops because she got locked inside the car. So
yeah,
I'd love to hear about that story one of these days, because you got locked in the car. That'd be a really awkward 911 call.
Lily, imagine the driver leaving it at the door because no one would let them in.
Mm-hmm. So the comments on this were all singing her praises, how ingenious, how creative. And the article right at the very end went on to say that she, didn't bother to try to call a friend. So I don't view this as particularly smart. I think that was pretty nitwit move, honestly.
I think it's inventive. I'll give her that.
It's inventive, sure, yeah.
I'll say it's inventive. I just don't think it's practical or. Did she not learn any life skills? Like, that's the only thing I kept saying. I'm like, are we that reliant on technology that we resort to technology over being saved quickly and efficiently? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Clearly.
Maybe it's just being old. I don't know.
Clearly. Like, I mean, what if she was like stuck in like a hot tub, right? Like, what if the roof of a hot tub like came over her and she had enough room to breathe, right? Is she gonna like sit there and order an Uber to come and unlock the thing for her? Or is she going to call her super to let her in immediately, or a friend? Like, it makes no sense to me. I mean, she clearly was not in a hurry to get off that roof. So can you imagine seeing an order that says, I'm trapped, I'll tip extra if you unlock the door for me? So I don't know. You know what? Fairly lighthearted story. Yeah. So sorry. I'm not going to walk up. I'm not walking up that many flights of stairs. So.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I'm a dork. Like, before I even go into any restaurant, specifically on Doordash, granted this is Uber Eats, so it wouldn't apply. But if it's Doordash, I actually look at the drop-off notes before I go into any restaurant. So I know what I'm getting myself into before this. So if I saw this before I walked into a restaurant, I'm like, yeah, no, man, unassigned. I'm not dealing with that.
So we are running pretty late tonight. We had a lot to cover. I think we're going to skip ahead at this point to the funnies, some lighthearted stuff after the heavy stuff. So this person ordered, again, of course, why is it always Chipotle, Kim? Why is it always Chipotle?
Because it's Chipotle.
Yes. I don't know. I don't feel like their order volume,
There's
at least
so
in my
many
market.
things that can go wrong at Chipotle. I feel they've gotten a really bad rap over the years. Some of them is rightfully so. just from the experiences that I've noticed, to me, at least in my Chipotle, the later at night it gets, like the worse and worse and worse my Chipotle gets. It's better than what it has been. It's still not even right. So
Yeah.
I
So this person ordered Chipotle and received a lettuce bowl. Allegedly. Allegedly. So this is another one of these stories that I don't believe them for a second.
as much as we badmouth Chipotle a lot of times, I can't imagine a worker filling a bowl with lettuce and say, "Here you go." Like, I just don't even like.
Yeah.
And as
It's not even orderable.
No,
So
I
how does that happen? So, okay, anyway. So this person, went on a tirade and freaked out on, of course, a TikTok, because why wouldn't it be a TikTok, right? And, went on about how they ordered and, they could tell how heavy the bag is. They could even tell if there's a fork in there. And they picked it up and knew something was immediately wrong. Opened their definitely not Chipotle bowl to discover nothing but salad. So they freaked out, and of course nobody verified this with Chipotle or the store. So, we're left to speculate whether it happened or not. Again, my personal opinion, no. It was somebody looking for their 15 seconds of fame.
If it is real, shame on Chipotle for giving, like, you should question, to me, you should question, hey, I'm putting a whole bowl of lettuce in a bag. That doesn't seem right. Like, when does Chipotle say, hey, there's something wrong with this order, I think I should check it? Or when the Doordash driver comes, should I have them call the customer to make sure that this is right? Like, where's, if this is legit, where is Chipotle's accountability? Because I know me, maybe, just logical thinking. This doesn't seem right.
I guess for me, I always look at what they ordered, partly because I'm nosy and partly because, I want to make sure I'm not going to miss a drink. If I am expecting to, like get a burrito bowl or something, I'm expecting that to weigh, a couple pounds, right? If I pick that up and we're talking ounces and not pounds, I'm going to be pretty suspicious that something's up too. So I find it hard to believe that the driver didn't catch this. So, I mean, we can speculate all day long, but ultimately it was on TikTok, which, loses some credibility for me automatically. And I don't know. I just don't think it was a thing.
I think this next one is my favorite story.
This is what nightmares are made out of for some people. So, Kim, why don't you go ahead and introduce this one?
So this person goes to deliver, I think it's Little Caesars, whatever pizza.
Little
I think
Caesars.
it's Little Caesars pizza. And he walked up to a lawn full of dolls, legitimately like dolls placed everywhere on a lawn. And he's like, what the heck is this?
So I'm so cynical when I see stuff like this. The thing that I noticed about this video, I'm like, oh wow, that's a bunch of creepy ass dolls, But what I noticed was that this was, supposedly a Doordash order, and he left it at the door. What he didn't do was take a picture of the pizza.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, he did not take a picture when he left the order at the door. So I don't know if it was a friend and he's just like, hey, I think this would make a great TikTok, whatever, So, I mean, there's some people who do have a phobia of dolls. And I mean, we've all seen those creepy YouTube videos where the doll, like, it's supposed to be an inanimate object and like it turns its head slightly and does something weird. So, I mean, I probably would have done the same thing in his case. I probably would have, filmed a quick video and used it, in a future ride along, like, look what I saw. But it's a harmless story. $5 says that his neighbors hate him or her neighbor.
It's funny because there was two comments that stuck out. Someone said someone is mad at their neighbors, so that goes to your line. And then the other one says that this was the best security system that they've ever seen. I'm like, that's so true.
Yeah. Nobody's going to break in if they think a psycho lives there.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the story I kind of told last night on Show Me the Money Club, that I pulled up to a house one time and there was a doll in like hundreds of dolls just lined up in every one of their windows, like peeking out of the window. And it was the most creepiest thing I think I've ever come encounter with. So it's creepy, man.
Yeah, I've gotten really fortunate. I think the worst thing that I've had to deal with is trash at hoarders' houses. So the dolls are, I mean, they'd probably be a little unsettling to me on like a foggy night, if I'm being really honest. But, in the middle of the day, when you're delivering Little Caesars or something, whatever, no big deal. If they were doing a shop and deliver order or something, they ordered like liver, like just chicken heart and liver or something, like I'd be worried I'm walking into a sacrifice. But I think it's harmless enough. Another comment said that they were trying to devalue one of their neighbors or their neighbors' properties, and that's possible too. But ultimately, I'm willing to bet. Go ahead.
Hey Al, yeah, sorry, we're kind of making fun of your house there.
Ultimately,
Yes,
I'm
we
willing to
were
bet that
judging.
this was some sort of a neighbor dispute. So I actually saw a bunch of dolls on a van that were like glued to it or something a few months back at a grocery store. And I just remember, I wonder if I still have a picture of that actually. I'll try to find that. If I still have a picture, we'll show it on next week's episode. So,
That's
yeah, I mean, everybody has a weird phobia. It's Kim and I both found this lighthearted and humorous. So we decided to share this with you. So the next one, yeah. Kim, do you want to read this as well? I'm gonna have some thoughts here in a
yeah.
minute.
So it says, attention, when you're picking up an order, make sure that you wear a Doordash shirt and you must bring a hot bag. Also, please wear a nameplate if possible, or else we will not release the order. So I saw this and I'm like, oh, that's cute. They think we wear uniforms. Oh, they're delusional.
Yeah. So, all right, follow me down the rabbit hole on my response here for a minute. No. That ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna wear my little top dasher hat, come in like some 50s kid who's gonna get pat on the head like, oh, how's school going, little buddy? Like I am not the guy. I'm gonna come in looking somewhat professional, and I'm gonna pick up the order and drop it off. That's it. I'm not wearing a hat. I'm not gonna wear a shirt. I'm damn sure not about to wear a name tag. Screw that.
I've worn some sort of uniform for the past 20 plus years. There's
okay.
no way in any God's creation doing DoorDash. Well,
Okay.
unless it's mandatory and we become employees at some point, but there's no way I would be wearing a uniform. But there is, you talk to your drivers around your area. There is one driver around my area who wears nothing but DoorDash gear, whether it's a shirt, it's the hot bag, like he's literally the hat, like he's literally covered from head to toe in DoorDash gear. And you get to talking to people. I got to talking to him one day, and he says he purposely buys DoorDash merchandise because he can write it off on taxes at the end of the year, and he might as well write off a uniform. So that was his reasoning behind it.
To me, that sounds like a waste of time in dealing with the IRS. Like,
Yeah.
I think we all have at least one of those drivers in our market that's like way too gung ho about it, and takes her job way too seriously. I remember seeing a post on Instagram, 6 months or so back, and it was somebody who had posted a screenshot. They had stitched two photos together, and it was their dasher stats. Person had 100% acceptance rate, 100% completion rate. Their ratings were, I don't remember what their ratings were, but they were like green down the board, right? 100% everything. and their car was done in this big ass tacky DoorDash wrap. and I'm just thinking, man, dude, like, and actually, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, a mutual friend of ours, another content creator, I think is in this person's market, which is how I found this. He sent it to me. He's like, "Yeah, check out what this guy's doing." So he told me that this driver was under the impression that Tony knew him by name because he was such a good ant for the company, you know, such a great top dasher, and that he was going to be rewarded handsomely for all of these shit orders he's taking. So, if you guys want to wrap your car in a bunch of tacky DoorDash shit and not get paid for it, be my guest. But that's just pushing it too far, in my opinion.
Wow. I have cars in my area. There's one car that actually has a DoorDash decal on both sides of like their doors.
Still no.
And I have one driver who used to have a DoorDash dome on top of his roof that said DoorDash and like lit up so you knew he was a DoorDash driver. But I know him, and he actually sold his car and put another form of decal on it that just says delivery driver. So there are people who take it very seriously. Me personally, I don't like to call any attention to myself or my car for safety purposes. So it's not something I am interested in doing anytime soon.
Yeah, no. So if I knew that a restaurant had a policy that they weren't going to release the order, if I wasn't like, okay, I could almost see the shirt being reasonable. I'm going to tiptoe over that line and let's just pretend it's reasonable. I don't think it is, but let's say it is. And you lose me with the name tag. Like, why?
I personally have a hard time with name tags to begin with. Even when I had to wear a name tag for my past job, I didn't, because I actually got stalked once because they had my name. And every company I went to, I told them the story and why I don't wear name tags, and they honored it for me. But I am not a big fan of name tags because of that reason. So name tags is definitely a no-go for me.
Yeah, so I had a similar experience, actually. It was a fellow employee who was stalking me, though. She was very enthusiastic about getting to know me, and the feelings were not reciprocated. So that's, a story for a different time. But anyway, I think most drivers are going to agree that we're not going to be wearing any kind of goofy shit, and we're just going to have to not deliver those orders if they're expecting us to do that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're gonna have to suck it up, Buttercup, on that one, because nope.
Like I'm not gonna walk in the restaurant, right? Like if they're a Thai restaurant, like I'm not gonna walk into the restaurant, throw a fucking sombrero at them, and be like, "You got to wear this because I say you have to, or I'm not taking the order." Right? It doesn't even out. So there's my rant. Guys, we've got one more for you tonight, and this threw both Kim and myself off a lot. So this is a high-paying DoorDash order for laundry pickup.
And it's extra large, by the way.
Yeah, extra large order, 0.5 miles. So it includes DoorDash pay and customer tip. So Jennifer's already gotten us started here with the bedbug comment. So guys, leave it in the comments. Are you comfortable picking up somebody's laundry? So just yes or no. Kim, with my luck, an unmentionable would fall out on my way, and I'd like have a hot date, and they'd like find something like, whose is this? Like, from the looks of it, an 80-year-old's. So
you just put yourself out there way too much.
Yeah. So this is creepy. I'm sorry. This is creepy. All right. So We'll see if we can get a single yes. We got a bunch of no's so far. Kim, would you do this?
Heck no.
Yeah.
There's no way in any God's creation. First of all, is it dirty or clean? Either way, I'm not doing it either way. That's first thing. Like, can you imagine a customer reporting you stole their laundry or stole something that's not in their bag anymore? Like, there are so many things that can go wrong. Oh, no. No.
Highlight Chris's comment down there. Oh, no. Well, actually, that's funny too. Real rideshare.
Real rideshare, sorry.
Yeah. Why is a customer called Streaks? I can see people doing this just to mess with us.
Can you imagine?
But I mean, you make a valid point. That's what if the customer makes the claim? And actually, matter of fact, that's moving past just like app risk, right? If you have a customer like, Zach stole my thong or something like that, right? That moves into the realm of getting you on a couple of lists. That moves into like legal trouble.
But there's creepy people out there. First of all, a customer, would you trust a stranger that you've never known before to handle your personal bits to a laundry and make sure that they get back to you? Like, there's a lot of creepy people out there. No.
I don't even think I'd want somebody taking out my trash, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, no.
So
there's too
all right.
there's too many things. But what got this, like, when I saw this, I'm like, really, DoorDash? Like, grocery food delivery is not enough for you? UPS, like, we're going into laundry now. Don't you think it would be nice to give drivers, like, hey, by the way, in your area, choose or not to choose to do laundry service, just like cash on delivery? Like, I feel like this is a big deal, and it was just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's an order.
They're trying to break into any industry that they possibly can, and we're the ones getting caught in the crossfire. Every so often, they do have an order type that doesn't count against us to decline, and hopefully that would be one of them. So, Thomas, you're not supposed to tell anybody that.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, guys, I think we're gonna wrap up here pretty quick. I think we've got time for maybe a couple questions, Kim. I promised somebody would answer a couple, so
yeah.
Okay, sorry. We knew we were going longer tonight.
And just think, guys, we cut out a couple of articles.
We did. We did.
We will save them for next week. If it's not old news by then.
Yeah. So if you guys have any questions, get them in. This has been an interesting episode. There were some moments like up here as far as like rage level. Some stuff down here where it's just like, why are we hearing about this crap again? Okay. So let's answer Jennifer's question here.
Sure.
So it depends on the app. Like every app does it a little differently. If we're talking specifically DoorDash, you need to have a
4.2.
Yeah, thank you. 4.2 rating or above. Now, if you have, you typically can fall below that threshold and be okay for a little while, but you're going to want to bring it up as quickly as you can. So now, as far as Uber goes, I don't think that they've ever published what their, I know 70% is at risk. And actually, when I first got my Uber rating, due to that customer I talked about earlier claiming the order never showed up, I came through as at risk. So I was like 70% when I first got my rating, and I was fine. It took me like 6 months of driving for Uber, but it slowly crept up from 70%, and it's been at 100 for probably at this point about a year now. So Kim, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I just know DoorDash, it's 4.2. If you go into any one of their programs, the programs are dependent a lot on customer service ratings on DoorDash. Yeah. The Diamond program is 4.5. I think everything else like Top Dasher and LOP is 4.7, I believe. So there's
Yeah.
just different thresholds depending on your area. Grubhub to me is the most lenient. There are no customer service scores, but you should still provide really good customer service because we're in the service industry, but there are no customer service scores.
So, Red Speedy Gonzalez,
Red. Hey, Red.
thoughts on pay by hour? So, I'm not a fan of it. I think we're giving up our freedom to transparency, honestly, with the program. It's not a true hourly rate. So, you're only paid from the time you are actively working on an order. So, driving to the restaurant, waiting, driving to the customer, but not when you're not. If you're waiting in a parking lot waiting to accept an order, you're not being paid. Obviously, if you're driving back from dropping off an order, you're not getting paid. My gripe is the lack of transparency. So you don't know if the customer tipped. You're giving up vital pieces of information, in my opinion. Kim, what do you think?
I don't have it in my area yet, so
Oh, that's
I feel like I
right.
can't give an opinion yet. But something funky is going on today in New Jersey with DoorDash. They completely changed the offer screens, every offer screen, to look like pay by time. So I don't know whether they're testing or they're rolling it. I don't know what they're doing. They were doing
Get
something
some
funky in my area today, but
get some screenshots of that.
I did a couple of them. I can show them to you, but
Yeah.
the screen that was being shown, from what I've known from other creators, was for earn by time, and it was on every order today. So I didn't see on every order. I didn't see item counts. I didn't there was a lot of missing information. So
That's not cool.
no, it's very interesting. So I don't know what they're doing in my area today,
It's
but
very disheartening.
I wasn't a big fan of it. So if that's any indicator of earned by time, um, it would be rough. So that until it comes to my area, unfortunately, I don't have an opinion yet.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you planning on willing to do more videos preventing deactivation? Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably cover that at some point.
Yeah. We can
sure.
probably even do a whole live on deactivations and
We probably
contract
could.
violations, just because I feel like it's something so relative to, I feel like what we all go through as drivers.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, I've done DoorDash, Uber. I've never gotten anything on Uber Eats before. It's only been on DoorDash I've actually gotten contract violations, and to me they were bogus. But
Yeah, I hear you. So let's, okay. So, I want to address this really quick. I have fewer than 200 deliveries my first 3 weeks. That's, I don't think based on that alone, I don't think you're in danger, honestly. Your big thing when you're brand new, honestly, is going to be, contract violations. So you can get on DoorDash specifically, you can get, I think 3 of them, before you're really, I mean, this is subjective when you're new, but you want to be careful of contract violations in the beginning.
yeah, the more orders you take, it's going to become easier. You just need to get orders, unfortunately, under your belt, because a lot of DoorDash's stuff is rated on the last 100 deliveries, but
Rolling.
their customer service scores are based off of the last 100 100 customers who actually rate you, not
Rated you.
100 deliveries. So it might take a little bit while longer. Like, I know a couple times I've gotten like a 1 star, and it takes me the amount of deliveries I do. It still
Could be
takes me like
hundreds.
yeah, it literally takes me like 2 or 3 months for it to go away, just based off of people rating you. So hang in
Yep.
there.
I think you'll be all right. 100% completion. Yeah, you're looking good based on what I've got so far. Guys, I think we are going to go ahead and call it here. We went much later tonight than we usually do.
All right, guys.
So thank you all so much for being here with us. We will be at the same place, same time next week. Money Hungry live on the RideShare Guy, 5 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday.
And just one thing, if you guys have any stories of your own or see something on Facebook or Reddit or TikTok and you want to send it our way, you can always email us. Zach is Zach at therideshareguy.com and Kim at therideshareguy.com. You can email us at any time if you guys have anything you would like us to share on the show or any information you want to give us. So definitely send it our way and we'll look into it.
Zach with an H. So, all right, guys. Hey, thank you so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing you the same place, same time next week. Take care.
Bye, everyone.